it's Nat. Welcome to the start of another weekly reading vlog. Once again, I am behind and busy, and I have no idea how much reading will get done in this video. So to start things off, Josh and I are going on a little mini trip this weekend. We, along with his family, are traveling up to Ohio. One of his cousins is graduating high school, and so they're like kind of utilizing it as a little family reunion, and it'll be a nice little mini vacation for us. So that'll be fun, but also busy because we fly up Thursday and we are coming back Sunday. I have a mile-long to-do list because of course I do. I also have book club on Wednesday, and then I'm going to my brother's on Tuesday. It's gonna be a busy week. Also, it's June. Happy Pride Month. If you missed my June TBR, then you missed out on my saying that I am actually using my Patreon for my TBR this year. Basically, I keep giving them little polls and they pick out what I end up reading next. The first book that they had me start with was Spellbound by F.T. Lukens, and all of them, I swear, wanted me to read this. And I can see why, because I am really enjoying it so far. It is adorable. It's so cute. We start out following Rook, who is a inventor, and this is a very magical, normal society. Like, magic is accepted, but not everybody has it. And Rook is one of those people who does not. Unfortunately, his grandma, however, did. And she recently passed, and because he does not have any magic, he basically was forced out of his home and had to live by himself, sustain himself. And now that he's nearing 18, he's even more reliant on his own abilities. And given the fact that he does not have magic, this thing that has always felt like home to him, he is desperate to reconnect with it and ends up trying to get a job with this woman who's insanely powerful and owns this company called Hexagon. Gone. It's terrible, but I love it. In no time, Rook ends up bonding with Sun, who is the apprentice of Rook's boss's like frenemy. And these two end up becoming frenemies as well. Sun does have magic, and they, along with their mentor Fable, are both very much sticklers for the rules, while Rook and his boss Antonia, they're not. They're skirting them, they're pushing the limits, and I'm having a lot of fun with this. It's really, really cute so far. I'm more than halfway into this now. Rook is fully admitting he has a crush on Sun. Sun is like kind of trying to figure out what to do here because they're in this very complicated situation where they really like Rook, but also there's so much Rook is doing that goes against everything they know, everything they've been taught. There's this like magical governing body. Rook literally being involved with magic in the first place goes against some of their rules. It's really silly and fun. It's definitely YA. I feel like the plot's a little meandering, like it's not really going anywhere too fast, but I'm still having a good time reading it at the very least. Along with that, I am also continuing to work on my Buns and Roses project, which is a TBR project that I brought back this year. And I am currently in the middle of reading Tempest and Tulum, sports romance that it started pretty strong. It kind of dropped a little bit in the middle, I'm not gonna lie. But I'm still invested in it enough to keep reading. She went through something traumatic when she was younger and basically has turned to underground street fighting as a way to cope and uses it as a form of self-punishment. Whereas he's like this head of security for this super rich guy in Kenya, and they end up working together in multiple different ways. Like, first off, their official jobs where he's a security consultant and she works for an architect. Also, he ends up becoming her coach, and then now there's this like undeniable tension between the two of them, but Koyo keeps putting a stop to it. Delia is getting tired of it. She is not here for that. She shot her shot and unfortunately got shot down, which I will say, I do like that this actually does feel very slow burn. I mean, I'm halfway into the book and we've had a single kiss. I also have my romance book club on Wednesday, and I was gonna try and blast through a book for it. I don't know if that's gonna happen now, if I'm being honest. And I'm starting to think I may just use the last romance book I read. Our prompt this month is to read a book with your favorite trope. I was gonna go for enemies to lovers, but the last romance book I finished, which was A Lady Sparks a Flame by Elizabeth Everett, very, very much enjoyed. Highly recommend. This actually would work for Forced Proximity, which is a very close second for me in my like favorite tropes list. So it could work. I might just end up going for that so I can continue reading Spellbound. Finally though, I actually came home to some book mail. I allowed myself to grab It Came from the Closet. It's a compilation of essays by different authors who are queer, discussing how horror films have shaped them, impacted their identity, idea how it's tied in with their identity. I've heard good things about it and I've wanted to read it, especially after finishing She Found It at the Movies for my feminist reading vlog, which was similar but was looking at female pleasure in films. It made me more intrigued for work similar to it. And this is kind of in a similar vein, talking more about queer experiences, but looking at horror films specifically, which I do think will be very interesting. I did have a bingo, so I was allowed to buy this. I didn't break my book buying ban rules technically, and I'm hoping that I can dive into this during this month and have this be my nonfiction pick for June, even though technically I actually already have finished a nonfiction book in June, but it was my pick for last month that I didn't quite finish in May. Good morning, friends. So it's Tuesday. I didn't really read much more last night. I finished out some filming. Josh and I ended up making dinner kind of early, and then we went on a very nice walk with Faith. It was shockingly nice out, given the fact that, like, summer has officially hit, and it's supposed to be like off and on raining all week. So it's been pretty freaking humid, but it was actually rather nice last night. Almost 2 miles in, which is great. So it's Tuesday. As I said, I am going to be going to my brother's tonight, so that'll be fun. I've continued listening to more of Spellbound this morning, which I'm continuing to really enjoy. And now there's like this fun new element because without getting into too many specifics, a cat becomes a lot more important and it's very entertaining. Here for that. I ended up deciding to actually bring with me for lunch It Came From the Closet because I think this is a good book to try and work on during my lunch breaks, seeing as how like these little essays are on the shorter side, and then that way hopefully I can just kind of work my way throughout the month. That's the hope, at least. I'm going to continue working on Spellbound. I have no idea what my workday looks like today, so if I have a lot of audiobook time, I think I might go ahead and start into The Pairing by 𝗖cie 𝗵quiston, which is the next book my Patreon ended up voting on for me. Hello, darlings. Happy Wednesday. Ugh, I'm getting ahead of myself. It's been a busy day. Not only did I have work, but had to come home, work on packing because we were heading to Ohio tomorrow. And then I also had book club. I need to film this update. Plus, I need to finish out prepping my video for next Monday. So it's all set once we get back. And then if I can, maybe edit a little bit of next Friday's video. So I'm ahead because I've gotten not nearly as much of that edited as I want to. But I do have reading updates for y'all. Last time I talked to you, was I still working on Spellbound? Yeah, I think I might have still been working on Spellbound, which now obviously have finished it. I really, really liked this. Honestly, it very much gave me like Agatha All Along vibes, and I loved it for that. You never get a full total understanding of magic, but like it's just this like soft, cozy, light romance, fun story, and I really enjoyed it. It was super cute. I totally understand why this author gets a lot of hype. So this was a pick from my fantasy books, meaning next ones I offered them a few romance books that would work for my romance book club, and I was hoping to kind of just like crank through a book so I could talk about it on my book club. This month's prompt was a book with your favorite trope. I think I had 2 books that fell into enemies to lovers, and then I had one that was a second chance romance because both of those very, very up there. And the next book that ended up winning the poll was The Pairing by 𝗖cie 𝗵quiston. This is the newest book by the author of Red, White, and Royal Blue, a book which has gotten a lot of love. I also love that book. This one, not so much. At the start, we follow Kit and Theo, who have just broken up on a flight over to London where they were heading towards a food and wine like tour of Europe, and it was a pretty nasty breakup. Kit ended up abandoning Theo in the London airport, and Theo ended up having to get home by themselves. Both of them got a voucher for this tour because they didn't end up taking it, and they have to use it within like a certain number of years before it'll expire, and it's pushing to that expiration date. Theo decides to finally go ahead and do it, so they take the tour. It's been about 4 years, and of course, who is there? None other than Kit, their ex, has been working in Paris as a pâtissier. I think that's the term and how you say it properly. And in an effort to showcase how over Kit Theo is, first they become fixated on trying to sort of be friends, which isn't going super hot. And then eventually Theo ends up offering that they should do this sex bet where they are going to try and hook up with as many people as possible throughout this tour. I'm going to be honest, going into this, I was pretty hesitant because I never like romance books where a large majority of the plot is really based around sex. But I've really enjoyed 𝗖cie mcquiston's prior work that I read, so I thought if anybody can do it, it's them. Boy, was I wrong. At the start of this book, I was very much on Theo's side because I can hold a grudge with the best of them. And babe, you got abandoned in an airport in a separate country. I would be furious too. I am so on your side. If it weren't for the fact Theo is such a frustrating person. They alternate back and forth between being either the most anxious being who can't make a decision to save their life, or the most impulsive person ever who doesn't think a single thing through. It's very, very frustrating and only really seemed like it would go one way or the other in order to conveniently continue the plot. Off of that, I was really annoyed at the way they talked about Kit because they're very clearly not over Kit, and they alternate back and forth between either villainizing them or worshipping the ground Kit walks on. Theo's also pretty immature. I mean, these characters are supposed to be pushing 30, but honestly, they do very, very much feel like 19. And part of that may come from the fact that it's explained to us these two are childhood best friends. Like, they have known each other for majority of their lives. So I can see, like, when you're around those sorts of people, you revert back to the person you've been. Frustrating to watch, even if the banter was fun, I'll admit. Like, the banter could be very entertaining. I also didn't love the fact that Theo kind of like cosplays as a poor person. I mean, their family are these big name rich celebrities. They write movies, they star in them. All of their family members are millionaires. And yet Theo is trying to kind of build up their own bar business slash being a sommelier. They're so woe is me. Oh, it's really hard to get my business off the ground, and like it's difficult to actually be successful when you're only trying to work with people who won't recognize you because your family's famous, and you don't want connections that way. That's cheating. And like, you don't want your family members to pay for stuff because that's just convenient. Give me a break. Get over yourself. On the opposite side, Kit, inconsequential. Not necessarily. Kit kind of comes across like a pretentious douchebag, but like not a bad guy. I mean, he'd be annoying, but I didn't really see anything wrong with him. It wasn't like I couldn't stand being in an elevator with the dude, but I also don't really understand what Theo saw in them. And another part of my issue with this book is the romance wasn't really being sold to me. I wasn't feeling a romance between them. I felt like I kept getting told about how great their relationship was and seeing them reminisce about different stories from when they were kids, but I didn't actually feel any real tension or chemistry between the two of them to really make me see a romance developing. Finally, they're on this food tour with like 10 other people, and yet none of these characters really matter, which is very strange. But with the setup of the book, pretty much every single side character is nothing more than a sex toy in this never ending edging contest that the two put themselves into with this stupid bet. It was kind of gross, honestly. By the time I finally ended up DNFing this, I really just felt like it was perpetrating the gross stereotype that bisexuals are just greedy and hypersexualized and have commitment issues. This was not a romance book to me, so I DNF'd it. I gave up on that. Hope you enjoyed that little rant I just did. So I ended up deciding for the next genre of books to have my patrons vote on for horror, and unsurprisingly, Bury Your Gaze by Chuck Tingle ended up winning out. Especially unsurprised that Jem voted on this one because she loves this book, and I'm very hopeful I will love it as well. I've already started into it, and I'm roughly about 40 pages in. We're following 𝗖cie, who is a writer in Hollywood. Unfortunately for him, has just been told that on his new show he is working on, either he needs to make the lesbian couple he has been establishing straight, or the story has to end with one of them or both of them dying. But there's also this like interesting element of the story that I've never heard anybody talk about, which is that there's like AI art going on in this where they literally like create an AI of an actor who has previously passed. This AI actor is actually getting an award. Super weird, but like a really interesting discussion that's going on there. Has me very intrigued if that's going to get explored anymore. 𝗖cie is understandably furious about this development around his work, and off of that ends up going and chewing out this other guy on the lot, and whilst doing so, a grand piano falls on this man. So Wile E. Coyote. Very unexpected, but oh my gosh, it like got my attention immediately. Along with that, the audiobook of this has numerous big name authors as different voice actors, like Stephen Graham Jones, CJ Lead, Sarah Gailey, T. Kingfisher, TJ Klune. Like, I am so interested on how they're going to work in here. That's so cool. So I'm very, very excited to continue on with this. We'll be listening to more of the audiobook whenever we're traveling tomorrow. Physically, I have decided I'm going to try and take Shorefall by Robert Jackson Bennett with me. And this is kind of honestly a mood read. And because I really want to keep reading this series, I haven't started into this book yet, but hopefully I will on our flight tomorrow. That's adorable. Hello, my friends. So it has been a few days because obviously, as I said, we ended up traveling to Ohio and it was a really busy trip. We did a lot. We flew in, stayed in Columbus with some of Josh's family for the night. We ended up having this really nice lunch at like this family Italian restaurant. And then we drove up to Cleveland, had another family reunion with the other side of his family. And then the following day, we had like 2 family reunion parties essentially. Plus, we ended up doing a tour of a haunted seminary, which was awesome. And then the next day, Josh and I were driving back down to Columbus in order to fly home when our flight got canceled. Things took a little bit of a turn, ended up staying an extra day in Columbus, which was unanticipated, but we ended up getting to do this really fun, like interactive, immersive art exhibit. It was called Otherworld and it was super cool. So we still were able to have like a little mini adventure, but yeah, it's been a really crazy last few days. So I haven't talked to y'all in a while, but I have actually gotten a lot of reading done. It's just that I haven't consistently been reading anything, which is the problem. So starting at the top, I do think I mentioned to y'all when I began into Bury Your Gaze, and I am continuing to really like this. I have made a little bit more progress. I think I'm like about 90 pages in, and we have already seen one of these characters that 𝗖cie has created come to life. But of course, in this situation, 𝗖cie naturally thinks it's just like a stalker and is really wigged out by it, but like not for the reasons I think he should be. And I'm really intrigued to see more about 𝗖cie and like what in his life inspired the pieces he has created, because it kind of feels like that's sort of what's going to be getting talked about here. But also along with that, like I said before, the discussions around like AI and the impact it has in artistic spaces. So I'm really excited for some exploration around that discussion as well. I am really liking this. I just didn't have a lot of audiobook time by myself, so I didn't make too much progress. I went back and forth on what physical book I wanted to take with me, but I kind of let myself mood read a little bit and ended up picking up *Shorefall* by Robert Jackson Bennett. I'm already really enjoying it. I read it the entire flight there, and then a good deal of it when we were like had a little bit of time here and there at the Airbnb, because we had this gorgeous back patio area and it was just very relaxing to go and sit out there and read when I could, even though I think I never got more than like 10 pages read in a sitting. And then I read some more of it when we were flying back. Now I'm about 170 pages in, and I'm really enjoying this once again. It's actually been about 3 years since the prior book, which is very interesting, but there are elements of things that happened in the first book that we're getting to see how they've impacted these characters and how their lives have altered because of those experiences they lived together. I do really appreciate the fact though that the author continuously keeps working in that these characters have to commit heists, because that's why I picked up the first book in the series. It was about a heist story. We continue to see them having to do that, or at the very least be like heist adjacent, and it's so much fun. I really enjoy that element of it. I like this group of characters, and by this point I like that they kind of have a much more established little found family, because they've been essentially in each other's back pockets for 3 years now. But now we have a new villain character, and things are looking grim right now, and they're trying to figure out how are they going to take care of this situation, and I'm really enjoying it. Plus, it does continue the queer theme, because the main character Sancha, well, one of the main characters, has a relationship with this woman Bernice, so it does have a sapphic romance as well. I'm really liking it, as I've said numerous times now. Apart from those two, when Josh and I were driving up to Cleveland, initially I had us start into Ring Shout by djeli Clark, because this is a book I'd really wanted to read. It's on the shorter side. I thought it would be an interesting little horror. Josh actually ended up falling asleep on the way there. It wasn't because of the book, it was more so he was just worn out. But I definitely thought this was queer in some capacity. It is not. That didn't really work. Then when we started our drive back from Cleveland, because, you know, he had slept through the roughly 3 hours we had listened into it, I didn't want to restart. He didn't really want to start in the middle. So we ended up deciding we'll figure out something else. And Josh ended up picking The Babysitter Lives by Stephen Graham Jones, which is an audio only novel. And ironically also has a sapphic romance in it. So that kind of worked out perfectly. But we're following our main character, who is a babysitter, and she's working her first night for this rich family. And they have these two twins who are a little odd. Come to find out, the twins have some weird ability, maybe, to like teleport around their house. But is it the twins, or is it this mysterious other mommy that they have? Definitely kind of getting Coraline vibes so far. We're not too far in, but I already really like the main character. She's like super determined to get a great score on her SATs, get into a good college, and basically leave this small town. Her girlfriend takes that very personally, thinks that she is trying to abandon her along with the small town. And then, as I said, she also is a babysitter, and there's these kids who you can tell like are kind of weird, but they're also 6. They're just kids. I will say the voice of the kids is kind of a little old. I mean, I have nieces and nephews roughly around this age, and like I don't quite see them saying some of this stuff. I like the established relationship we've already started to see with the babysitter. I wish I could remember her name, but you can tell she's just really good with kids. Like, she knows how to interact with them and how to talk to them and have them lower their guard, how to connect with them. I'm really liking seeing that. And again, this whole kind of Coraline angle has me so intrigued. We got, I think, like 25% into the audio on that one. We were driving back from Cleveland. That now means I have started into like 3 different audiobooks in the last like 5 days. All of them are horrors, which is not great for me because I try my best not to read the same genre and the same medium at the same time, but oh well. So though this is not the most successful reading vlog when it comes to finishing books, I at the very least started into a lot of them. That note, that is officially it for today, y'all. So thank you so much for coming to my channel. I really appreciate it. Make sure to hit like and subscribe down below. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let's do a crown emoji because there's one on the cover of Shorefall. I have links to all of my socials as well as a few ways you can support me linked in the description. I come out with videos on Monday and Friday, but until then, I hope you continue to have a terrific day. Love you, bye!